going that fast. So it seemed like he was holding me up a little bit, and I just made a pass on him and decided just ride a smooth race, and it worked really well for me. I saw Doug coming up, but I just held my head and ended up winning. It was awesome.
Like a Jeremy McGrath, who's just, or a John Michelle Bale, or a David Bailey, somebody of that nature that has so much talent naturally that if you just go out and try to race your race and not race them, not take the race to them, turn into them off the starting line, because it's kind of like there's rules, but there isn't rules. You need to be a boxer and a brawler. You need to be all these things to, I feel, to be a champion.
Motocross racing originated in Europe. The French gave it its name, and the sport has never looked back. During the 70s in Europe, motocross exploded. They would flock to the race in hordes. In Russia, they would attract mind-boggling crowds of over 200,000 people. Sylvain Gabors, Joël Robert, and Torsten Hallman were a few of the top racers, but the man of the hour during the 70s was Roger DeCoster. DeCoster was gracious to his fans and ferocious to his competitors. He rode the 500cc Grand Prix circuit. During the time, it was the most elite class in the world. Compared to today's machines, these bikes were crude and raw. If the rider was not in complete sync with the bike, a momentary lapse of concentration and the rider could find himself on his head, picking dirt out of his teeth. DeCoster became a master at controlling his bike. The more demanding and physical a track was, the more DeCoster would excel. He trained at such an intense level that he would wear his competitors out, giving battle to them relentlessly until a checkered flag fell. The fans were in total admiration of his never-say-die attitude. They would travel to Italy, Spain, France, Poland, Germany, the Netherlands, Russia, Finland, Switzerland, Belgium, and many other nations. Even though their world was divided by communist walls and fascist regimes, Roger DeCoster and his teammates traveled in and out of these countries freely. Motorcycle racing, for whatever reason, was a universal language.
Without Roger, there would be no motocross as we know it today. He should be named the founding father of the sport in the country, and he is one of the finest that ever lived.
Hey, Nige, what happened to my folks, man? I thought you just You're just gonna ride the bike.
I blew the fork seals, fixing them.
Sure, I can't trust you guys. You and your brother.
Let's go take a look at my bike. I gotta fix something on it. I need you to take a look at it in it. In fact, why don't you give me a hand, Dad? I wanna make the bottom end a little bit better in this thing. Since you know so much about bikes, you know, a lot we can do to it.
Why don't they start taking these forks and putting them on my bike?
No, I don't think that'll work. Who's all gonna be going up there to the Utah thing?
Bob is supposed to be going, and for sure Wardy and Ricky are going to be there.
Well, what kind of train is it? What are you guys gonna be doing? Just riding, basically?
Just having fun. It's a nice place to ride. There's big hills, you know, sand dunes, cliffs,
Trails and stuff?
Trails, yeah, single line trails.
Not too good. Who do you think the best riders were of all time? I mean, take the top 5.
The real true champions is guys like Hannah, like Ward, like Ricky, like, you know, Jeremy. They figure out what it takes to win. They don't give up. You know, they keep at it. No giving up.
I feel really strong. I'm going to do it the second moto.
Score a double today.
Well, I was real fortunate to get the whole shot in the first moto. I'm going to, you know.
Tracy's insane, she's the strawberry boy, and now it's the end of the joke.
You know, the basic training for a motocross rider was ride his bike. The guys that were into Olympic sports knew a little bit, and even a lot of the things that they knew have been proven wrong also.
Right.
Yeah.
Roger was God to me. I mean, if he said it was red, it was red. He said if it stood this high, it was that high. I mean, it was. I remember seeing the first cardboard cutout of him, and I was so jealous that guy has his own cardboard cutout. I thought he had made it then.
Bob Hanna's a cocky guy that I think brought motocross also to another level of fitness. He was a true competitor, no matter. I mean, he didn't like anybody on the track.
A real fighter, never say die attitude.
Jeff Ward, a very tenacious guy. You know, when Wardy came to motocross as a pro, he was not successful. He was one of the best amateurs that ever lived. He won many titles, but because of his height, he had a little problem. And then Wardy seemed to grow, and he stuck with it. You know, he just hung in there, and all of a sudden he started to beat everyone. And Wardy was one of the smartest riders I've ever seen in my life.
Determination.
right down to facts. He thinks of every move, he thinks of every line, he tries to be as smooth as he can to conserve energy. Johnson, on the other hand, was the total opposite of that. He was a bulldog. He had the upper body strength, and he just put the bike where he wanted it and held the throttle where he wanted it, and see how it come out.
Showman.
I think Ricky was another one of those very rare breed of riders like Roger and Bob who were able to dig down deep and always just go a little deeper than what he had to do to win.
McGrath, now there's your original Showtime. I mean, this guy here knows the crowd's there. He's fast. He's like a hot knife through butter. He just slices through everything, and everything is precision. I mean, the guy just is on top of it.
I sat with Bob Hanna the first time Jeremy entered a Supercross as a 250 rider, his first full season. And we watched him. He started out well and faded back to 4th or 5th, but Hanna kept saying to me, that guy is really going to go somewhere.
Talent, smooth, different.
To win a motorcycle race, I think it's more 80% human and 20% bike. You've got to have the equipment, but anybody that wants to, that has the talent, can get a factory ride on a motorcycle.
But that's the neat thing about motocross is it's such a physical sport. It's so close, you're so vulnerable, you could really hurt each other if you had the intentions of doing that.
No matter what the capability of the bike is, the rider's not using the full potential of it.
No bike in the world that's going to make a good rider out of a bad rider.
Exactly.
You know, it doesn't, and vice versa.
If you play now, you'll work later. If you work now, you'll play later.
Never went to school things, never did, anything but race motorcycles. I just loved what I did. I think that's one of the main things. You just have to love it.
This guy just realized that he really wants to do this, and he's going to start Monday. They all, like I said, everybody wants to win on the start line at that moment. But the trouble is, you might want it, you might want to win, and I want to win. But what wins that race is the back 6 months of training up until then, or the year. And the getting ready, the testing, the riding, the running, to get in perfect shape. But I went there to beat you because in my heart, I wanted to beat you. I never beat you because I'd make another $1,000. I beat you because I wanted to whip you. If I golfed with you, if Rick Johnson and I went golfing, and Roger, I'd want to beat him. I may not be able to, but I'd want to, I wanted to win. But I happened to be racing a motorcycle. A guy like DeCoster, if age wasn't against him, if age just didn't get you, he'd still be doing it. Because his mindset, he's a stubborn Belgian. I mean, it's just in him. You got to be somewhat stubborn to do it. Otherwise you give up.
Gone to Tahiti on vacation. In the jungle I found me a tiki man. Well, you can understand my elation when the natives, they all shook my hand. The head of the village said destroy it. Well, I'm no fool, I kept it that way.
In the U.S., all the money, glory, and prestige is focused around a $1 million purse, indoor Supercross series, and an outdoor national series. In other parts of the world, the most prestigious races are centered around the Grand Prix circuit.
These guys that say they love their competitors are full of crap. Is Muhammad Ali like Joe Frazier when he fought him? Your ass. He didn't like him.
A motorcycle race is hardly ever canceled due to weather. Races and racers continue to run in sleet, snow, rain, and shine. If a rider's going to win, he'd better learn how to adapt. A strong and relentless woodsman from Finland by the name of Heikki Mikkola was one of the Iron Men of the 70s. Mikkola's hands had to literally be pried off the handlebars. McCullough would rather spit in your face than look at you. He was one of the original Iron Men, forged out of the wilderness of Finland. McCullough took the 500cc World Championship away from DeCoster in 1974.
Interesting, you talk about Mikkola and DeCoster. That represents the last 7 World Championships, Roger having won 5 of them, Hickey won 2 of them.
DeCoster, in the off-season from his Grand Prix circuit, would travel to the U.S. and race in a series called the Trans-AMA Series. He won that series 4 times. The Europeans would dispose of the Americans like child's play.
Europeans, until the early 70s, well, even in the early 70s, were dominant. Greatest feat to say we were first American, or I was first American, or Brad Lackey was first American for that weekend, last weekend.
Out in the California desert, a young, aggressive kid was beginning to get attention because of his wide-open style of racing. Bob Hanna was not intimidated by anyone. If a rider was going faster than him, he believed he could rise to that level and take it one step further. This attitude landed Hanna on his head more than once, but it also put him in the #1 spot on the podium. Hanna trained with the tenacity of an Olympic wrestler. He fought his opponents on the track like a heavyweight boxer.
When I first started riding for Yamaha and went over to Belgium to ride Trophy of Nations, I got the opportunity to ride with Roger on his test track in the sand. And I thought, I'd say 20 years old at the time, I thought I was riding pretty good, and in the United States I was known as a fairly good sand rider. And I'd pull in behind Roger. By the end of halfway through the first lap, he was already out of sight. Roger was running all the time, he was riding the bicycle all the time, he was riding the motorcycle 3 or 4 days a week. And we just kind of had to get accustomed to how much training we were going to have to do. And it got down to where if you weren't riding your motorcycle, riding a bicycle and running, at least 3 or 4 days a week, you didn't have a chance on Sunday.
Bob Hanna, he was like my idol.
Introduced the wide open style of racing to Supercross and Outdoor National.
The first American to understand how the Europeans rode motocross and conditioning, and he did it one step further and put it right back on them.
Bruce, the decathlon champion, is often called the greatest athlete in the world. What's your view of the athletic skill and ability involved in this sport?
And I find it one of the most physically demanding things I've ever done.
In Holland, they slide their way through sand. In Spain, it's a rumble over the rocks. In England, a grind over grass. In the United States, motocross means Southern California and Carlsbad.
7th stop on a 12-race circuit where riders compete for the World Championship.
No one's really won a Grand Prix, 500cc Grand Prix yet. They're really looking forward today. A lot of people are.
Competition, we have very possible that an American rider that nobody is expecting doing good today will do very good.
Checkered flag goes to Jim Pomeroy, becoming the very first American ever to win a moto in this, the only race of its kind on the North American continent.
And also the dirt is dust is starting to kick up an awful lot, Jim, and that makes it different.
Brad Lackey, who at age 23 has spent 7 of his years as a professional motocross rider, and if an American is ever to win a world championship in Grand Prix motocross, it will be Brad Lackey. Marty Smith pulls into the pits, so he is out. And in rapid-fire succession, both Pomeroy and Smith have left the race. Wolsick has a big lead over the 6th-place racer, so as Lackey goes down in front, east side of the track, Roger DeCoster has had so much terrible racing luck here at Carlsbad.
Every time he comes into a crash on the track, it's just in front of me on this track.
Track where Brad Lackey, the Californian, is chasing Hickey Mikkola, the Finn. Look at how close Lackey is with this big crowd all along the track.
I feel very good now. I'm not tired. I feel
100-degree heat here at Carlsbad. It is absolutely oppressive, even if you're sitting on the side of the track. Americans are here to root for Lackey, but there goes Mike Bell passing Romans and moving into the lead. He to follow in his footsteps and score a dramatic victory in the first moto here. Right on his rear wheel, you can see it there. Bell has slowed down visibly. Wilson goes to the inside and goes by it. And Bell has been whisked away to a hospital where he will be treated for heat exhaustion. It does not seem to be bothering these three men. And there goes Brad Lackey by Wilson and into second place. Lackey, right now he's trying to do it in front of the grandstand, and he does. An unusual place to pass. Right at the start-finish line, you saw Lackey slip to the inside, get the line on Nicola, and go by. Carlsbad, only the second American ever to win a moto in this event. And Brad Lackey heads immediately for the only small patch of shade he can find in the area.
Here they had their dream come true, watching Marty Moats, who grew up nearby, become the first American to win the U.S. Grand Prix of motocross. It's been a marvelous beginning for Brock Glover. Look at him fly to run first and second. And Glover knows that Lackey's just behind him. Glover almost comes off his bike, almost lost it. Lackey just about close even with him, but Brock seems to have it back. But now Lackey moves into the lead, but there's Glover on the inside, and the two side by side, and now it is Lackey moving on top. So Lackey has the lead for the first time in the race. Here comes Glover again with Brad trying to make a move on Lackey. On the inside he goes. He had him for the moment. Lackey winds up going into the fence on the outside, and down goes Brad.
You're hang back and try to time the start perfectly. As you can see, it backfired on
the United States Grand Prix here in Carlsbad. And Schultz begins to lose it, and into the crowd he goes. And it takes
this much energy. It's racing.
Ducks on side by side and has taken the lead on a beautiful move to the inside.
Congratulations. Second American ever to win the USGP.
Feels good.
It was a brilliant ride.
Just gave it everything I got. I tried really hard, and I was starting to get sick to my stomach. I'm feeling it right now. I'm really tired. It was worth the effort.
The man who has gotten the whole shot and taken the lead as we go out onto the course is number 32, Darrell Schultz, a young American rider. Margin has been narrowed by the new second-place rider, Danny Chandler, 22 years old. Chandler has moved ahead of Lackey. That up, top gun in the sport of motocross. Coming
on Schultz, Brad Lackey is still back there. You can see he's the third. Physically, they're already getting very tired. And look at Schultz, he's all over the racetrack. He's trying to stay on the bike. He's staying on it. In fact, we're going to see it. Yeah, he's waved. And somehow or other, they then lose their edge, and they can make mistakes. And in a case like this, where you've got to interpret.
At a time when he was just babying the bike, went straight down in the mud. And there goes Brad Lackey by him. And Lackey, entire 1980 season with an injury. Last year, he was racing in a 125cc class here in California, financing his own bike. Now here he is this year with a factory deal and leadership in the first moto of the as Lackey has moved up on Roman's wheel and is threatening him. Here he comes off the Devil's Drop. One last shot to pass, and he doesn't get it.
And about 77, I think a few of us had an idea that, well, we're going to win one of these. And we're not going to be first American, but we're going to win the race first overall. But it really never happened first series until 78. I beat Roger in the Trans Am series. If we told the truth, Roger was getting old, I was young, I was cocky, and if we'd have backed up 4 years and Roger would have been in his prime and I would have been in my prime, I don't know that I would have beaten him. Well, one time I can remember racing Roger that the exact words are in my brain, and that's about 1978, Unadilla, New York. Roger didn't get a very good start. I got a little bit worse start. We come up through the pack. At about this point, we're 30 minutes into the race. He's third place, I'm fourth place approximately. I catch him, and I go by him expecting a confrontation. And I pass him, and I'm thinking, I'm getting ready in the next corner. I'm thinking, man, he's gonna blast by me, and I come out of the corner, kind of look back, and no fight at all. And he's the king of Unadilla, and he's gonna let me beat him. I go, amazing. So the second moto comes around, and basically the same thing happens. Neither one of us get a real good start. We catch up. We finally get up that he's in the lead. I'm in second place. And I'm thinking, well, here's the old man. This ought, you know, I say he's about had it, and I come up and I pass him. Well, immediately, wham! I mean, just rams inside of me and right by. I mean, nothing dirty. He just came by. And my exact side, I'm thinking, wow, this is something. I go back by him the next corner, about the same way. Well, next corner, wham! I mean forcibly, boom, right by, and I kind of stand, I sat up, and my exact thoughts at that point, I go, whoa, the old boy ain't dead yet. You know, and I'm just laughing. I'm thinking, this is great. I go, he's got some spunk this time. Well, I wasn't even thinking about that moto win situation. And he would come in, use the brakes very precisely, square it off, cut inside me every time, pass me back, and I would berserk it into the corner and rail around the outside and pass him. Well, I was working okay until we came up an uphill, and it kind of turned left, and I go around the outside and pass him. And then at the top of this uphill, just as we leave the ground, he comes out of the side view here. He comes past me. And we T-bone in the air about like this. Well, I know I'm down. I think we're both down. I know I'm down for sure, and I am down for sure. Well, when my bike hits his bike, I remember the last thing I saw was his bike going sideways like that, and I just jumped off the top. Because I said, well, I'm going to get off as easy as I can here, because like I said, I am going down. Well, when I hit the ground rolling around and I get back up, I look for Roger, and that sucker never went down. I was so mad, but I wanted to kill him. And I remember that the guy that took me to the airport that day was John Gregory from JT, and he was trying to calm me down all the way to the airport. I was ranting and raving that I was going to kill that sucker. I hated him, and I was going to break his legs. And
the most determined person in anything that I've ever met in my life. He was so dedicated that it just defies description.
Gave me a lot of drive in those days, is looking at those guys, and I was actually jealous of them. And they were my hero, but I was jealous. I wanted to be them. And so I worked full time at being him. I didn't like him getting all that publicity and all that money, and me not getting it.
Who was the fastest guy you raced against, Roger? Like, just sheer speed?
But in his good years, Bob was fast.
Yeah, he could go so fast. He wasn't a technical guy, but man.
You know, he wonders where you are. But I always just leave it on until I hear him shut off, leave it on a little longer, and turn.
Bob was a relentless guy that could just keep it rolling.
Is there any braking in that corner?
Yes, but the less braking you do, the faster you go through.
Sheer speed.
I think Nicola, he was prepared and determined, and the guy trained a lot. And
well, I knew he was a bad man when I saw him at Carlsbad in a Speedo and clogs. I thought anybody who can sport that outfit has to be a bad man.
He wasn't hanging around his pits either, was he?
He was white as a ghost and just sporting a Speedo and in those clogs with tape on his hands, and just between motos, he was a smooth operator.
yeah, he was tough.
You have to be tough to do that.
Roger had luck, and we all had luck that, first of all, we weren't killed in the first place, or he had his spleen taken out, that he didn't die. On any given day, we were lucky.
You see, the late Roger DeCoster passed away in Belgium last February on a hospital operating table after he hit a tree in practice.
So I was bleeding inside, but I did not know if it was the spleen or the liver or the pancreas. Or you guys just do something, you know, cut me open and try to find what's happening.
Heart massage and the removal of the damaged spleen kept Roger DeCoster alive. Within 3 weeks, he was back in training. Within 4 weeks, racing again. And then, just 6 weeks after the crash, this was Roger DeCoster, winning the second moto of the Austrian Grand Prix to demonstrate that he was, in fact, alive and well. Afterward, a big crowd looked on in awe as DeCoster told an interviewer that he was simply very happy to have won so quickly after such a serious accident.
Before, pain would not stop me. Now, after I have 2 little boys and all that, and I want to be able to retire and be able to still do things.
But I'll be happy to see him retire. I think he's done a lot for the sport, and he's given a lot to everyone, and I think it's time now.
Well, Roger was probably the first guy ever really to get set up financially so he didn't have to work as far as motocrossers come. I mean, I think all of them until he came along was actually planning on working afterward. I mean, even the guys that rode with him in World Championship class races, Garrett Wolsink, for example, was a dentist. And I don't think he ever thought that he wouldn't be going back to dentistry as soon as he was done. And I don't think Roger would be around now in the industry if it wasn't for the first wife he had. And he had a few $1 million stashed around here and there, and I think now she has a few $1 million stashed here and there now.
Motocross racers from the U.S. and the world prepare for the biggest, richest motocross event ever, the Coca-Cola Super Bowl of motocross.
At age 22, the man everybody has to beat, the king of Supercross, Bob Hurricane Hanna.
I don't know. I think I'm getting too old already. I'm already starting to think about some of these big jumps where I used to never think about them. I'm thinking about them now. So I don't know if that's good or bad.
You have to have somewhat of an advantage at this point.
Yeah, I'm pumped up. I'm ready.
You look ready.
Hanna, we know Hanna. Hanna was one of those guys, man, he works hard and he still loves to work hard. He loves to ride a motorcycle. You know, he'll get on a 125, burn off hot laps just as fast as anybody. He'll jump on a 500, do the same thing, you know, it doesn't matter. Not too good at jumps anymore because he's getting a little older, but he's still pretty fast.
How long have you been racing in the large class bikes?
Well, this is about my 5th stadium this year. I've been racing 125s for about 2 years now.
You started in the mini-cycle ranks, did you not?
Yeah, I've been riding for 12 years. About 9 or 10 of it's been about mini-cycles.
I think when we started racing against each other up at Escape Country in the 80 Pro class, which is kind of neat, you get about 15 pros out there on 80s, and we'd walk away with 150
pretty
bucks.
Good
you know,
pretty good for like a 10-year-old.
Yeah, you know, I'm 12 years old. Jeff's I think 14.
As much as my dad, I think, when I was like 13.
Dad rode, and that's what got me into it. And you get a certain style through your youth, and then I mean, when I moved on from mini bikes to 125s, I got lapped.
Jeff Ward, I guess the smallest guy I ever saw race a motorcycle, but pretty darn fast guy. Had to work a long time, and it paid off for him in the end.
In second place, Jeff Ward. He's the 19-year-old, and Jackie, as we said, a man who was born in Scotland.
Accelerating to the fastest possible speed they can attain on this racetrack, getting down now to about 110 miles an hour.
Goes the co-professional Warren Reed in front.
Going up a hill, and look at this!
That's Hakan Carlsbad, the world champion, into the hay bale.
On the asphalt, on the macadam, and they're accelerating away. These bikes...
Just be high speed, just 100 miles an hour all the time, no matter what I did, driving, riding, just anything. I was just wide open. I broke my jaw in 2 places, broke my collarbone, and I need a lot of room. I like to go fast.
Yeah, I think without a doubt that the craziest guy that I ever raced against was Danny Chandler, but you respected him as well because he was crazy, but you always expected him to crash, but there was days that he wouldn't make a mistake. He would go out and hit everything wide open and survive it, and here you are sitting there holding the bag, and he's half a lap ahead of you. No problem.
Wide open. Fly over him.
Yes, so crazy.
He would just do things that nobody else would dare try to do, you know, and sometimes you got away with it all day.
Yeah, you're right. There they go. Now here's where Chandler's been making his move. Don't think this time. Well, here's where he made the move on the last lap. Oh, he pushed the wrong way. Steve Wise looked to his left in the rear, and Chandler went by him on the right. He didn't see him coming. He's still very much in doubt. And here he comes. The victory, the checkered flag for Denny Magoo Chandler.
Absolutely brilliant ride. You dethroned the king of the superbikers.
But he would do things. There was no question in his mind, I think, that he was so much superior than everybody else, because no matter what it was, he would do it.
Yeah.
You know, even if there wasn't, like now, you know, And a more civilized rider, they're like, well, if somebody else can do it, then I can do it. And Danny was always the first guy to, if someone said, no, you can't do that.
He wanted to be the first guy.
Yeah, like at the nation race in Wallon in Switzerland.
Mm-hmm.
He was unbelievable there. No chest protector, nothing, and that track is full of rocks. You know? I said,
that just didn't matter.
You know, everybody is putting the hand gas on the bike and all that. And he goes out to the line, no chest protector. I said, Danny, you know, you need a chest protector. You're gonna get killed here. No, I'm not gonna get killed. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna lead.
Well, they say you're the hottest thing around at the moment. You sure showed it this afternoon.
Well, thank you.
When you came to Honda, you were working with a lot of different guys, but David was pretty young.
Yeah, we got him. You know, I saw David on the circuit when I was riding the Trans Am still, and he was.
Taco.
Yeah, he was. I think he was one of the first riders that really used timing on the track. You know, like timing bumps.
He was like the innovator of a lot of stuff.
We were still trying to hit things and go as fast as we could and go wide open and hit things really hard and we would be fast. But he realized that there was sometimes something to gain by slowing down to go faster.
Yeah.
Another young rider that DeCoster hired was David Bailey. Bailey gave Bob Hanna fits. Bailey gave everybody fits. Bailey was a maestro at controlling the bike. He also learned from his father, DeCoster and Hanna, what it was going to take to win. Winning began to flow to the young Bailey like water.
Hi, this is David Bailey, the 1983 Supercross champion. People say I'm smooth. Only Supercross champion to have ever won the Grand National title. In fact, I'm so smooth I've won it twice. I'm the smoothest rider on the circuit. To help David out quite a bit in the beginning of his career, which you didn't do with a lot of other riders. Why was that?
Oh, mainly, like we were talking about earlier, is I liked them. A lot of riders have cocky attitudes when they get the factory ride. They think they're the big time, they know everything, and David always wanted to learn. I wanted to see him do good, and it was a matter of time. When we were both on Honda, the first year I did pretty good, and I could beat him a lot of times, but after the first year, I saw a lot of his tail.
In 1983, Hanna jumped ship to DeCoster's Honda team. He wanted one of those blood-red Hondas that Roger DeCoster and Dave Arnold had built. At the time, each Honda race bike was worth over $100,000 and were far superior to anything in the world.
Let all the air out of the Team Honda's tires, it'd be a close race tomorrow, but team manager don't want to do that, so. That is, by the way, Unadilla, New York Mud-On. Well, I like Unadilla because of two reasons. It's very rough, very technical. That means that the older riders are smart enough to pick the good lines. The older riders are hopefully strong enough to beat the kids out. If Johnson was in his prime, I was in my prime, and Roger was in his prime, at Unadilla, Roger would win.
I hated Bob Hanna and I hated you. Two people, yeah, and you guys hated me.
In order of speed, it goes down like this. That guy's almost as fast as Stanton, see that? And we got David Bradshaw down, he's clean off the end of the table.
Johnson, Bailey, Hanna, Ward, and O'Mara were gunfighters. standing each other off year after year at Unadilla, New York. This event was part of the 250cc World Championship circuit, but there was no way the Yanks were going to give any space to the visiting Europeans. Hanna became a folk hero at Unadilla because of his valiant come-from-behind charges, although victory continued to evade him until 1986. The aging Hanna was starting to give way to the young assault.
Jeff Ward is fifth. Cup moved into second, and Jeff Ward screams to the end. Apparently has run the racetrack, and here comes Hanna alongside O'Mara. Hanna, with feet off the pegs, goes by. From out of the pack has moved into second. Hanna ended up with a broken wrist, and it happens again. Now going with an inside line, draws even. He makes the pass. Keep going, keep. They're side by side, and Hanna makes the pass. No! Johnson cutting back to the inside of Hanna, held on a second. Wanting to lead in front. Here's Johnson, and Johnson goes down. Hanna
starts slowing down about a lap before it sees.
And now O'Mara takes an inside line and he makes the pass.
I'll be 35 of those 45 minutes. I probably rocked for 40 minutes.
Hanna goes wide. O'Mara cuts to the inside. He repasses Hanna. They collide.
You don't give up. No matter what. I don't care if you fall down, if you break your fingers, you do whatever. You know, you get back up and you try to win. You know, if you don't win, that's what Hanna had, and that's what I respected so much, is that he would just drive. When he was on a motorcycle, he didn't care about his size because he's little. He's not a big guy. Always feet off the pegs, just going for it, you know. Because I don't feel he was the greatest technician on a bike, but his desire was huge.
And I got good at saving the bike in a bad situation. So I could run the bike at 100% in a spot that shouldn't have been and get through it and then put everything back together and get into the next section. And it wasn't pretty, it just got the job done. And I was, like I said, I was very good at holding the bike tight and very good on the brakes, so I could just kind of just put it together. This wasn't a surgeon at Bailey, and it wasn't really a bulldog, and it wasn't the precise that Roger had. It was kind of a combination of everybody.
The Golden State 1986, I was sick, I couldn't race. Johnny went out and broke his ankle. David got like sixth, and you destroyed everybody at the first Golden State.
Was that at Glen Helen?
No, it was
up north somewhere.
Right, just up by Castaic Lake.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, yeah.
They had that.
Yeah, that one. I rode 250 and 500.
Right, and you won both classes, you jerk. When we came back to Anaheim the following week, we had our ducks in a row, and we went 1, 2, 3, and you had a bad night.
In 1986, DeCoster hired Johnson away from Team Yamaha. Johnson was excited about his change. He was now teammates with David Bailey, and the first race of the year in Anaheim became one of the monumental brawls of all time. It wasn't just a race, it was a street fight.
His dad would tell him, you need to be more like Greg, you gotta crash through stuff. And then I'm on the other side of the coast, and my dad's going, you need to be more like Bailey, smooth and save your energy and do this. And I try to do what he'd do, and I couldn't do it. And we came up before, we're sitting there, you know, doing our little pat dance on the starting line and doing this and that, and we said, hey, you know, we're both running quick tonight. You know, we're gonna be up there. And I said, I'm not gonna try to take you out. And he says, I'm not gonna take you out either. would land so close to you, you know, that you would flinch, but he had such control of the bike that, you know, just he was like a poet on it. It's kind of like there's rules, but there isn't rules, you know. And I think as long as you're not T-boning somebody and trying to hurt them, if you're roughing them up a little bit. I mean, I know Hannah did it to me, and Weinert did it to Hannah, and you know, people have done it, and that has to be a strength as well as just being strong and talented.
Watching this race with Arnold, we were sober and said, they're going to take each other out and we're going to end up losing this race, you know. We have the two fastest guys on the track and we're going to end up with nothing.
You won, bastard. It gets to a point of, you know, rubbing and bumping and stuff. Then all of a sudden you can tell when a guy's trying to move you over a bale and take you down, and you could always trust him.
We'll sacrifice, help me celebrate this precious gift of life. As the battle rages, I will carry on, true to my convictions.
The two teammates contested, consumed, and devoured each other all year long. At the end of the '86 season, Johnson won the Supercross Series and the 250 Outdoor National Series, with Bailey taking second. Bailey won the 500cc Outdoor Series and Johnson took second. They traveled to Italy in the end of the season to compete in the Trophy Destinations. And for the 6th straight year, the Americans won this grandiose event. The team of Johnson, Bailey, and O'Mara executed perfectly and ravaged the field. It was the most distinguished victory the world had ever witnessed. Johnny O'Mara caught and passed the 500cc world champion David Thorpe on a 125cc motorcycle. That's like a Geo Metro blowing by a Mustang 6.0. It's not supposed to happen. As in any sport, reaching the summit, being the elite class, knowing that you are number one is the defined goal.
RJ was one of the new kids, you know.
He was my first hero. He was a PR guy's dream. He was a fantastic rider, and I think he was very loyal to not only the sport but the people.
What about the physical side? You took a pounding there for 45 minutes. What do you gather back up? Do you change anything for this one?
Well, just your pants and your socks.
An incredible rider, not with an incredible amount of talent, but a hard worker.
He was by far the most determined and hardest charging Supercross rider ever.
Ricky was just the funnest to watch. He was always the best with the people. Just would go out.
Ricky Johnson, it was the first man of style, the first guy that went up there and clicked for the crowd and knew the crowd was there. And other, like Bob Hanna, he did clickers. They were all accidental.
Dominated by the Americans who consider this the course of their backyard. I don't know. Two Californians battling it out last. Small mistake by Ward. Johnson. Look. Whoa. Genocide's looming out over the east. So catch a ride in the belly or the back of the beast.
At the beginning of the 1987 season, the calculated and steady Bailey struck disaster in a no-name race in Bakersfield, California. Bailey flew over the handlebars, landing on his neck, and became paralyzed. But being true to his character as a champion, David Bailey fought his demons as the darkness set and lives life today with the same enthusiasm and zest that he did in '86. Maybe the accident took his ability to walk, but it was defeated when it tried to take his spirit.
Had some bad luck. If he wouldn't have, you got to ask Ricky Johnson, because if Bailey wouldn't have got hurt, Johnson wouldn't have been there. He was ready to kill Johnson because he flat told me so. He said he is sick of Johnson winning and he's going to do something about it.
David got hurt at the pinnacle of his career, you know. David was poised to win every championship that year in '87.
Bailey had his mind set, and he could do it too, and he was smooth and good, and he rode the bike right. He took the best from everybody and rode the bike right. A lot smoother than Johnson or myself. Very smooth.
Noble, just honest. I mean, he's honest about everything, the way he rode and everything he cared about. I think the key was not so much the speed, because the enthusiasm of the race will make all that energy come up and race, but it's in your mind.
If you don't do the preparation before you do something, you're not confident, and it's all confidence.
Johnson, Ward, and Ron Lachine set the prelude in 1987. The methodical Ward vanquished his teammate Ron Lachine and Johnson for the Supercross title that year. But not without the fiery Rick Johnson laying down one last defiance before Ward took over his #1 plate, uncorking a come-from-behind win that made Johnson seem superhuman.
It seemed like we both had a similar characteristic, because neither of us were really good at getting in front and just taking off. You know, it's like, well, I need something to motivate me to get me going, because it's like I got all this to lose.
Start. There's Ward, number 3. Here comes Cooper. There goes Johnson, and Johnson is forced out. Johnson goes all the way to the outside, and here's the battle for the lead. Number 44. He's up to about 14. There is Ricky Johnson coming out of nowhere, saying you can, and that's Ricky Johnson's mechanic. He says you can 16 laps, and he's telling Ricky Johnson you can go for it. You have 16 laps to win. What an incredible battle. He's come from 17th spot all the way up now to, I believe, about 5th or 6th. David, where do you have Johnson at this point?
So you were out in front, I caught up.
It was like whoever was behind could catch the
leader.
Whoa! And they tangle handlebars! Look out! Johnson almost goes down. He tangles handlebars with Ward, and Ward is not somebody you can trifle with. He's strong. He's only about 5'6", but he's about as wide as a piano.
And I never trained that much, and he kept pushing me to start training. I said, I don't need to train because I don't get tired. But he says, well, these guys are out there, and they got to move around the same 220-pound bike that you got to move around. So if they're stronger than you are, it's going to make it a lot easier. So it kind of, I kind of stuck with it.
Down and recovered. There goes Johnson. He's going around Ward, and he's got it. Unbelievable. Johnson is going into 4th. And there is Lunas. He is trying to figure out where Johnson is in the track. You can hear the crowd cheering, and there he goes past Bowen. And Johnson is going to 3rd. An unbelievable display of sheer determination. He's got it. Andrews just backed off, and now he's trying to go back after Johnson. And Bowen is right behind Andrews. Johnson trying to go around the outside, and Cooper said, no, you're not going on. You will not pass. And he slammed the door in Johnson's face, and Johnson is mad. He wants Cooper. RJ got a wheel, and Cooper said, no way. Shut the door. Unbelievable, crazy Johnson. Now trying it again. Johnson got him. Johnson has got Cooper. Now, incredible drive coming out of the woods. RJ. Wait, over the Thatcher.
Fall down again.
Johnson, and Johnson goes down. He goes down. Johnson gets up again. The crowd goes crazy. Cooper is on him like a dog on a piece of meat. But Terry Fleet comes out, and Ricky Johnson wins the Super Bowl motocross. Holy Toledo!
It's not that you're a he-man and you're not some kind of superhero. It's that you make the commitment and you do it. And it's not being lazy. I mean, you're not going with me every day and be lazy.
If you're not right, don't get on the bike. If you're not going to take responsibility for being in shape, if you don't have confidence in your bike, whatever it is, if I beat you, don't give me an excuse. I don't like that, whatever it is.
we've got to do some great traveling. That was always fun in motocross nations, because Ricky and I were always butting heads all year, but for as a the team, the American team, everybody put their heads together, and I mean we hung out and had fun and worked well together. That's why I think we dominated so many years.
The things that really count for me is like winning the Trophy of Nations, going 1-1 at Unadilla, and you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. Working with Hannah and Wardy, things like that I didn't just win. The whole damn country wins.
Moment for me, and definitely I had a really good time here, and it was exciting.
That's great, Jeff. And for you, Rick?
It's something that'll stand out in my memory for the rest of my life. You see him on TV all the time, and we finally get to meet him and shake his hand. Couldn't have been any better.
That's terrific. Bob Hanna.
Oh, I loved it. I wasn't too excited when I first heard about it, but about 10 minutes before you see him, I think my hands started sweating.
Ever since I was 9 years old, all I've ever wanted to be was the fastest motorcycle racer that ever lived. That was it. That was my goal. I wanted to be better than anybody else of any time. I just kind of felt that God gave me an ability to race a motorcycle and touch people through that.
In 1989, Rick Johnson had a dance with fate when at the Gatorback National in Florida, he was parading around the track in practice with Jeff Stanton, and a rider landed on top of Johnson, busting his arm.
I can't accept my wrist is trash, quit. And he says, well, you could take some anti-inflammatories and some pain medicine for it, but he says sooner or later you're gonna have to fuse it.
When Ricky got hurt, he was still on the top.
Oh,
and
he would have had probably about 8 more Supercross wins that year
than he has now, if not more. He
know,
already won 5 out of 6.
But the thing that I remember about that, and Roger played a key part in my career, and he said things to me, and they didn't seem like a lot at the time, but they had really stuck. Like there were certain times when I was having troubles and stuff, and when you get words of wisdom from a multi-time world champion and has managed the teams and worked with the different guys, you take it to heart. And I remember, he said, "You're a great champion. You don't have to do these things to prove who you are to these people. Just go out and race and let your personality shine. And that's what people want to see. You don't have to prove yourself, because Stanton was the new champion. Bale was really strong, and so in my own way, I was trying to sabotage them to pull them down to my level, because I knew I knew that my hand wasn't going to get any better. So at that point, when I walked away from motocross, it was a great relief. Just like, okay, it's over.
Only time can heal something like that. There was nothing I could say or do. Nothing that Rick ever does fails, because he won't let that happen.
Talk about 1992, Rick Johnson.
Well, Rick came out of the box, missed Anaheim because the team didn't have the truck ready, did terribly in his first 3 races. Everybody was wondering whether or not he was going to make the jump from motorcycles to trucks successfully. Well, they did 600 laps of testing before the LA Coliseum event, and he came out of there with the bit between his teeth, and the 2-wheel star became a 4-wheel star.
Plays all low. Oh my goodness, look at him. He took the double jump to the single bound.
Yeah, I mean, he got more acceleration coming off the corner now. He may try the same 8 lane. Here comes Ricky on the inside. Wheel to wheel.
What an awesome display of horsepower as the white flag comes out. There's some fender bending going on.
Final lap, Ricky Johnson on the inside. He said, this is a guy. This is all out racing.
Holy buckets of water. It comes down to this. Ricky Johnson in the Thunder car. And Millen seemed to start in the corner. And Ricky Johnson will come out of the lead with a half a lap to go. Through the rhythm section, the double jumps, the far sweeping left-hand turns. Millen's not going to quit. He's got everything in that Toyota going right now, Marty.
Johnson's got to stay to the inside. Don't give him the inside lane, Ricky. He's got it. Ricky Johnson.
First ever win, and what a way to do it in front of the hometown fans here in Los Angeles, California. What a great move. 2 world titles he won.
What's your strategy today? I'm just going to go out and win the race.
The natural cycle of attrition was taking its course. Just as Hannah did away with DeCoster, Johnson did away with Hannah. Johnson, too, was slipping into the background behind Stanton The scrappy Jeff Stanton and Damon Bradshaw campaigned against a two-time world champion from France, Jean-Michel Bayle. Jean-Michel Bayle was an amazing rider who rode with the fluidity of Bailey and the speed of a Rick Johnson or Bob Hanna. Bayle went on to win the 500cc, 250cc, and Supercross national titles in 1991. The Americans resented Bayle because he was so flawless and dominant. For so many years, the Americans were on top, and not since the days of DeCoster had the Europeans been on the summit in the world scene. But then, astoundingly, Bayle up and quit, saying that there was nothing else for him to accomplish in motocross, and so off he went into road racing. DeCoster left Honda in 1995. He came back as the team manager for the struggling Suzuki team. He hired three-time world champion Greg Alberton from South Africa. Bob Hanna came back to Yamaha in 1995 at the request of his old friend Keith McCarty. Hanna started working with Team Yamaha riders and their new sensation, Kevin Windham.
Well, I brought a lot of riders up here to Idaho and showed them what I have and showed them how I live, just to show them how they could live in 10 years if they work hard now.
In 1995, Doug Henry, a two-time national champion, broke his back. In 1997, Henry is in contention for the Supercross national title. These racers have incredible resilience, the ability to endo on their bike at 60 miles an hour, get back up with a broken foot, and finish the race. If they didn't have the ability to get back on the bike, they wouldn't be called professional athletes.
Well, I'm sure all of us had a lot of broken bone stuff. The ones I can think of real fast, I broke both wrists 3 times, both ankles 3 times. Obviously, I broke this leg in 12 places, but again, that was that water skiing accident we talked about. I broke arm, shoulders, collarbone. I broke probably what the worst deal is pelvis, top and bottom, busted it off.
Both ankles, screws in the one, elbow, both wrists, collarbone, ribs, tailbone, couple fingers, nose, twice.
Is it worth it?
Yeah, well, at the time it is. You just gotta take what is thrown at you in any sport, and that's part of motocross. During the time you don't ride without getting hurt. Rarely I would ride and not be hurt. You don't think about getting hurt when you're racing; it just happens. I'm more scared driving down the 405 freeway than I am racing motorcycles or cars or anything. I just loved what I did. And I think that's one of the main things. You just have to love it.
Motocross is not about being a straight and narrow guy. It's about having fun and being wild, and living on the edge. Yeah, living on the edge. Definitely. It's everybody thinks that motocross is a really crazy sport. I mean, we just think of it as a way of life. But I guess when you get down to it, it might be a little bit whacked, and we're all kind of different in our own way, and we all like to be individuals.
If you take a look at Jean-Michel Bayle, Ricky Johnson, Bob Hanna, the rest of those kind of guys, Jeremy on the racetrack has something even a little bit more special than they ever had. Jeremy's got the incredible knack for timing. It doesn't matter what Jeremy rides, where he's at, what he's doing, he's always out in front.
And after Jeremy had won 4 or 5 in a row, Hanna had made the decision already that Jeremy was the best that ever lived.
Like his predecessors, when his competitors turn up the volume, McGrath responds. His first year on a 250, McGrath won the Supercross deed in full ownership. Then he won it the second year, but he was still criticized that he was just an indoor rider. Then in 1995, Jeremy McGrath learned how to hold the throttle wide open, hang on, and go fast. and so he won the outdoor crown in 1995, silencing all his critics.
Oh, Jeff was on my tail the whole way. I knew it was going to be whoever wanted it more on that moto, and he was hauling ass, and so was I. And hold on. Oh, I'm stoked for next week. Have to gain a couple points, and it's all mine. You know, it's great to be able to tie the record of Bob Hanna and soon to maybe tie the record of Rick Johnson and beat it. But
And McGrath cleaned house in the 96 Supercross Series. The only threat came from the Kawasaki-mounted helmsman, Jeff Emig, as Emig was the only rider other than McGrath to win.
I see myself with the #1 plate in 2 or 3 years.
Emig shocked the scene at the outdoor races. As the underdog, he didn't crack. He turned on the heat and won the 1996 Outdoor National Series. Then traveled to Spain with McGrath and Lamson to win back the Trophy Destinations title, putting the USA back in the #1 spot with DeCoster as the team manager.
He said if I won the national championship that he'd put my picture up.
That's right. That's right.
He's awesome.
He's awesome.
He's awesome. You love him.
Emig came through the mini bike ranks as Ward, Johnson, Stanton, and other past champions. He was a mini cycle champion who won a 125 national title in 1992. Then everybody gave up on Emig. He reached down inside when nobody would pose a threat to McGrath. Emig, through sweat and discipline, found the strength to be a champion again.
Need comes before what you know. Need something you can't ignore.
Congratulations. Thanks. Proud of you. Good job.
You're expressing yourself in the way that you ride, the way that you feel that day, and you can tell certain riders from other because of their expression and the way that they're riding, the moves that they do, the way that they like that they go into a corner, whether it's real aggressive or whether they're just kind of sitting on the seat. You can tell, jumps especially, you can tell if a guy is in a good mood, because if he's in a good mood and he's feeling great, he's going to whip that thing sideways over every jump that he can. Where he'll keep real low over certain jumps, or he'll jump higher off of others, and where a rail turns harder or whatnot. And you can really tell when a guy is on. You can tell when a guy's off, because he'll be making a lot of mistakes. He'll be real stiff over the jumps or through the turns and bumps. And the past riders, the past champions, that they seem a little bit cocky towards us. We're not taking anything away from those guys. But like we said there, those guys, they were our idols.
And they led the way for these guys right now.
Yeah.
Wasn't for them, where would racing be?
Well, it's everything. It's strength, it's desire. I still don't think that there's a rider in the world that can take a bike completely to its limit. Because you can set the bikes up so good, yeah, you can go run into things and break them. But as far as jumping and how fast they can go, it's all a matter of who's sitting on top, because your body plays so much of the team between your suspension. You're coming short on a jump. You don't just sit on top of the bike and let it absorb it. You let your body absorb it. Now that's what I miss about going from motocross to cars, is that the best rider 9 times out of 10 will win.
You could put them all on the same machinery, if you could put them all in the same arena and race them time and time again, I think the guy that would come out on top would be Hanna, because, as I said before, he always found a way to beat you. Hanna or DeCoster, one of those two guys. I think probably it meant more to them in terms of not wanting to be beaten. The rest of them learned to accept the fact that some days you're going to get whipped. Those two guys never did that. They never learned that.
Sometimes you made a lot of money on the weekend, sometimes you spent a lot of money.
That it was just having a day where I'm flawless. I can do anything with the bike and not make any mistakes. Having people watching, just going, that's amazing. That's what I like for people to get out of what I do.
Worst roost of the year, and he doesn't wear a protector.
He's so bad, he don't need any.
You've taken, show me everything.
I think everyone's in for a huge surprise.
Longest 20 laps of my life.
When it comes down to it, there's not a rider out there that thinks about the money to win. They'll take the chance to win just to win. Last thing you think about going across the line, we get paid 10 grand. It's not worth 10 grand to get beat up over.
I respected him because the guy was he was phenomenal. He would put out an effort that I really admired, and that was something that I wanted in me.
The championships don't lie. If you didn't like the guy or whatnot, championships do not lie.